White is a nigga who came out the gate being like, no, I'm an ass and I eat niggas. Like, that's what I do. All right? I'm evil. I'm fucked up. Like, I'll kill you and I'll smile about it. And I'll laugh at your loved ones' faces. And then I might eat them too. Because my sword is sharp. It's the strongest. And I'm that nigga. Like, that's who I am.
AoA, that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah. Open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, clocked in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys, Isaiah.
Yo.
And Gavin.
What is Gucci shoes?
And today we are here to take a deep dive on the chapters that we read in our live stream for Tower of God Season 2 of the Webtoon. If you had not seen that already, what are you doing? It was fantastic. You definitely want to go check that out. Today we are covering chapters, what is it, 226
to 234.
Thank you, sir.
Those numbers.
Yes, those numbers are the ones that we are covering.
That all three of us knew.
That all three of us knew. That was a test to see. Yeah, it's currently 9:26 at night. We've been working since
EST.
9 this morning.
Yeah,
8:30. We came here early. Yeah, 8:30 this morning. So it's been a day. Y'all are going to have to bear with us on these if we misread something, if I stutter, because Lord knows I will, or if we mess up a question or just answer something completely wrong. I do want to say real quick, just as a personal note for anyone, last week we had our discussion, and there was a lot of contention around the first question that was asked. It had to do with Yuri and Bomb and etc. And after reading the chapters again on my own, because these guys posted in the Discord, I realized that I misinterpreted and did not read I do not remember those chapters correctly and the wording. So if you're watching this now and you're one of those people that's like banging through the playlist right now and you're like, what an idiot, recant all those statements that I did, because I was completely misinformed within my own mind, and it was also late. But I just want to get that.
Not that you're not an idiot. Not that anybody here is not an idiot.
Of course.
Just that specifically
Yes.
in regards to that question.
I just needed to say something now because there were so many comments, and I know there will be comments for years to come when people watch that video and be like, actually.
But I think like what you're saying is like, if you guys could just never have any negative YouTube comments about me, I would love it.
No. Not it, but... You know what's funny? Even if that statement was right or wrong, just Gavin's overwhelmingly loud laughter made it like, that statement's right.
Wow, making fun of a man's laugh. Sorry. Maybe I'll just fucking cry depression tears next time. How about that? Mental illness make you happy, Ian?
History is written by the loudest people. That's what they
Gavin,
say.
You hear that?
Gavin
Yo,
wrote
catch
the
your boy G in that.
And Gavin wrote the whole book, so... Anyway,
Yo,
no, it was
write a
because
book.
I knew I genuinely misinterpreted those chapters, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyway, moving on, we're going to hop into this discussion. Thank you to all the folks in the Discord. Had so many people join today, which is awesome. We hit like 300 people in our Discord, which is fantastic. Love to see all the new faces there, so thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who voiced their opinions in our ToG questions channel and asked questions, said, hey, this is what I would love to see you guys answer, talk about, etc. We compiled a list of the 7 most upvoted questions, and those are the questions that we're going to be referring to today in our discussion. So thank you again. If you want to be in on the next one, catch our live stream, and then hop right in that Discord and participate. Voice your opinion, voice your vote, and you may just end up being one of our next questions. But listen, if you guys like the content today, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, sharing with your friends, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion? What did you think of these chapters in particular? Because they were crazy. And what are your thoughts on Tower of God as a whole? But anyway, let's hop into this. Gavin, if you don't mind, start us off with this first question.
With pleasure.
you,
Okay, so we got it by...
Gavin, there's actually a bonus question if you scroll all the way up that you should start with.
Oh, okay. Let me see. What do we got? Bonus question, the fire potato.
Are you happy?
Are you happy, Ian?
Answer the question, you bastard.
Answer the
I
question.
feel like I'm being targeted. What the fuck?
No, you weren't targeted.
Last week, Ian said, I would love it if some characters would die in this story.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask you again,
Yes.
are you now satisfied?
I-
You cold-hearted sick son of a bitch.
So we do get into these questions, so I will save it, but I will short answer say that while that really hit hard, I do think it was necessary at some point. I still stand by saying it would have been necessary, whether it was then or sometime in the future, to have that sort of incredibly impactful death, whether it was Arc Raptor or Prince or whoever else, but someone on that caliber of character, I do think it had to happen at some point or another. Does it pain us in the moment? I fully admitted it. When I said it the other week, I'm like, listen, I know it's going to suck when it happens, but I think it has to happen at some point. And yeah, it sucked, especially Arc Raptor, who I had a feeling it was going to be because he's one of my favorites. Absolutely. And Prince, just because of his turnaround and he was just so adorable, that really sucked. It was a hard pill to swallow, but yeah, I am happy. Life is good. Anyway.
Make me sick.
Yeah, Ian will no longer be a participant of the AoA show. We are going to be suspending his license. So I'm going to pretend like that didn't just happen. All right, so
Give me my cat to pet while I do my evil villain laugh.
No. That was the perfect timing. All right.
Dead ass, I didn't know the camera was on me, so I just and I'm like, why? I'm like, why'd they pause?
I caught him with my pants down. Or his pants down.
Bro,
Dude, it's reaching that point of the night.
Late. Yeah, it's been a day, bro.
Yeah, you know, like filters and fish tanks, dude. Mine's just like getting so backed up, and it's just like mucked and dirtied. So you just be ready for
What
that,
an
right?
analogy, bro.
What?
Gavin,
Dude, big brains.
You're
Shit, that's a TV, bro.
You're just chock full of that shit. All right. Anyway.
All right.
Moving on. I'm gonna sip
Question
this water.
number 1. We got Riru. Riru. Okay. Rachel dropped quite a huge information bomb on us this week. She seems to know more about the tower than anyone at this point in their journey should ever know. How did she get all this information? What are your predictions on who she is? How does this change your perception of Rachel herself and her actions back in season 1? Okay, so I guess I'm going to start off.
Did you get the question?
I'm going to fucking kill you. All right, so I'm going to answer it in order. Hey. So how did she get all this information? Well, there is actually only one legitimate answer for how she got this information, and she's literally sleeping with all the fucking people up in the tower, and it don't matter because she's a snake, and she's just like, I don't care, I just want to see the stars for whatever reason. And yeah, so she slept her way through. That's canon. Final answer. What are my predictions on who she is, other than a bitch? It's actually kind of scary because legitimately I think she got this information from Uppers and Thug. Just from past ties that we have seen of her. Whether that's true or not is to be withheld, but from the information that I've been giving, all I can really surmise is that she's talking to Thug or other administrators who are, partnered with Thug, i.e. like Han Sung and gang. So that is where I think the information is coming from. Who she is. I'd imagine that her character is almost like the culmination. She is the direct opposite of Bam. So I believe Bam is brought into this tower to bring great change. And I feel correspondingly is that she is another power that is like parallel to Bam, but is supposed to do the direct opposite. She is the opposition of change to the tower. That is like what I believe her character like stands in this story. And even though that's not her main goal, which is to stop Bam, like I just said, but it's more to just her desires and her goals are they're the direct opposition of what Bam wants in a sense, and it doesn't matter who she needs to align with to get what she wants, because the people who she's aligning with is, the bad side of Thug, who essentially doesn't want Bam and that change. They want it in their own ways. So that's who I think that she is in the tower, and she's just being manipulated by other people and manipulates people for what she wants. So it's like a double-edged sword. How does this change my perception of Rachel herself and her actions back in season 1? Well, we know from season 1 being culminated, from the start with Heat On, she's just always been a snake from day one and will always be a snake in my eyes. So, quite frankly, I'm done with my breath on speaking on Rachel. So
you better brace yourself because there's quite a bit of Rachel questions.
Damn it, bro. All right, I pass it to you.
I'm not talking about Rachel anymore. Oh, there's 8 more. Okay, I'll talk about her a little bit more.
The people have spoken, apparently. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or are you good?
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay. I'll take a stab at it here. Rachel dropped quite a huge information bomb. She seems to know more, blah, blah, blah. How did she get all this information? There we go. Sorry, I'm looking across the room to analyze this question.
Yeah, no, but you just didn't understand the question. We got it.
Yeah, no, I'm just an idiot. So anyway, how did she get all this information? Clearly has to be, there are people behind the scenes, right? Whether it's higher ups in Thug. Actually, I think it's higher ups in Thug. Personally, based off the information that we got here, it seems like very Thug-centric knowledge to know this. Either Thug knows, everything that you just spilled seems like either something higher ups in Thug would know, or higher-ups in Jihad's whole circle might know. And it seems like information that even Jihad wants to hide, so I would assume Fug gets it through spying and all that kind of stuff, and it somehow has come down the chain. So that's my prediction. I don't really know anyone else who would give that information, or it's someone that we don't know yet. You know, it's like someone that's going to come into the picture later. So what are your predictions on who she is? I mean, we know she's a snake and a bitch, but I mean, like, beyond that, it's a tough one, man. We obviously know she's being set up to be, you know, someone that's not, I don't know, man. I'm trying to find an answer here, but like, I really can't. We know she's being set up to be someone, I don't want to say important because I feel like that's giving her too much credit, but someone that is of interest, I guess, if that's the right term. And, you know, obviously her whole story is not fully revealed, right? We still don't even know Bomb's whole story. He's trying to find himself in this up and coming arc. We're going to see how much, you know, we get in terms of answers there. But Rachel is the antithesis to Bomb, but I would argue is also like opposite side of a similar coin, if not the same coin type thing, where it's like they have a history. She's been down in the dirt, quite literally. There's something going on. She's definitely someone. She's not just this. I don't think personally she's just this random girl, Rachel, right? It's like she definitely, you know, has more to do with this story. So how does it change your perception of Rachel herself and her actions back in season 1? Definitely doesn't change your perception of any of my perception in terms of actions. I mean, she's pretty in line with her character. And I think that, you know, I guess you could say that, yeah, I mean, I still think that she makes the like terrible choices and actions, but like maybe I guess now that we know that there's clearly higher ups, you know, it was like that much more that she was going to go towards that route. She does seem afraid and she's trembling when she's like, oh, I finally killed someone. You know what I mean? So like she's, you know, she thinks she's like trying to act like hotter shit than she is, you know? And it's like, I still don't feel sympathy for her because she's consciously trying to step into this role of villain instead of trying to back away when she's had multiple chances to not do it. And now she's finally actually shed blood, like in terms of killing someone. So it's like, she's just going deeper down that rabbit hole. But it is interesting now that there could be someone, you know, is someone higher. And it's like, okay, who's been pulling the strings from day one, right? Because you've known Bomb since literally as long as he can remember. And a lot of your decisions seem to be influenced around, you know, things like that. So, I don't know. Interesting stuff. Isaiah, you got anything?
Yes. So, how do I think Rachel got at this information? I actually think that she either acquired the information through some like alternative channel that's not directly like, you know, putting an ear to the door of some bug meeting. Because information is kind of a funny thing in this story, man. Like, anybody could get any kind of knowledge from multiple different, like it's not like, oh, if you don't go to this one floor, you're not going to find out about it. It's like people are willing to give things and sell things for other things in this tower. It's not, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, if like I found out she coerted said information from some other person, or she got X thing and sold X thing off to get information, or made a deal with somebody for something, because that's not above anything that like she's capable of or that she would do. Either that, like, I guess my bottom line is that I don't think it was like given to her. Whether she again made a deal to like get it from some random or not some random person, but like somebody that knows the information, or whether she was listening in on a conversation that did not involve her and was not supposed to involve her. She did, because like I said in the stream, I do think that a portion of that story and that information that she tells Wangnan is not true. I think that she has this habit, as far as like resourcefulness and survival instincts, to like fabricate a larger story to make herself seem a little bit more in the know, let's say, and important than she actually is. Because again, people with knowledge and people with power, those are the only two values that work in this tower, right? Sure. So if you're not powerful, you've got to be knowledgeable. So that's on that. What was the next part of the question?
Hard Knock Life.
I don't think that none of anything that we've learned about Rachel or that's happened in the last few chapters we've read changes anything that I thought about her at all. It's really just, if anything, solidified. It's put like an actual reason behind why. Because before it was like, oh, I can't believe Rachel would do, like, she did that thing that's like, so, like, you don't do that. That's so mean. But now that like we have her reasoning, I'm like, oh, okay, so you're rotten, like, inside out. Like, there is nothing here worth saving. There's nothing here of value. You are constantly trying to play the heroine. You are constantly trying to play the victim in these scenarios and equations where every single choice you make ends with somebody getting hurt, somebody dying, somebody being traumatized. Like, there's literally disaster everywhere you go, and you refuse to take the fault in any of it, ever. And like, so I've got nothing but hate for her as far as my opinions. And who do I think she is? I think she's, I don't know. I don't really know, man, because so she tells Wangnan that she's an irregular.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know if I believe it. Like, I want to be like, okay, I guess it makes sense in regards that, like, she might be a person of such influence that, like, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a manner of having power. Like, she can make changes in the tower. But, like, I don't know if that, like, I guess it just comes down to, like, I only trust half the things that come out of her mouth. Like, I don't even know how much of what she told Wangnan is true and what of the stuff is, like, I feel like, I don't know what she is. She's a bitch. I don't know what she actually is. I don't know where she came from. I'm assuming that, like, in this arc of the Floor of Death, we're going to learn more about, maybe her backstory, Balin's backstory, their origins, what have you. But I don't know what she is, I guess, like, technically as far as titles. Like, she's just a terrible person.
That is correct. All right, so hopping into the next question here, we have by Smile, please. Thank you for the question, Smile. Says, what are your thoughts on how the deaths will affect everyone, especially Bomb, because of Rachel's involvement, and Team Sweet and Sour? And what are your thoughts about Arc-Raptor's daughter for the future of the story? Speculations from Emperor Dark North and 2005, and Fluffy, Managwin 33. So I'm assuming they all helped compile the question. Okay, thank you to everyone who helped. So deaths will affect everyone, especially Bomb, because of Rachel's involvement. I want to say that, like, Bomb's going to be like, all right, Rachel, that was it. That was the last straw. Like, you done pissed me off now. But, like, I feel like every time he's there, he's like, but Rachel, like, you didn't mean it, right? Like, he ran himself into that umbrella. Like, that wasn't you. You know what I mean? Like, every time, bro, he goes there, he's like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, dog, I don't know, bro. Like, I can't anymore. He's just like, I don't know, Rack, what do you think? This prop, by the way, is the best thing we ever got. But
no, Rack's currently dead. You can't ask him.
No, dude, I don't know, man. I'm just straight confuzzled in 50 ways from one. I want Bomb to, like, actually give a damn, but I think he will. But I'm just like, I don't know, man. I still think he's not gonna try and kill her, like, or anything like that. I don't think he's gonna be drastic. I think he's gonna be like, well, maybe we'll give it another shot, or like, why, Rachel, why? And it's like, how many times are you gonna ask why before you realize that it doesn't fucking matter why? You know what I mean? Like, there is no answer on planet Earth or the tower or wherever planet you're on that she could give you that would, like, you know what I mean, make any of that okay. Or so it's like, why even bother asking the question at that point? You know, it's like, you know what? There is no thing. Cause I was going to say, like, if she's like, no, I literally had to do this in this exact order. Otherwise the world explodes. Like, it's still not right. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's the point in asking? And I just feel like Bomb's going to ask, you know what I mean? Instead of like, you know, I kind of wish he would adopt the shoot first, ask questions later at this one. But, you know, it is what it is. We're meant to hate Rachel. And clearly Rachel, I guess, needs to live for now so we could get more, you know, filled out with the story, and like there's going to be the dialogue, who are they, etc. But I think, you know, Bomb maybe will shift into a more like, okay, I don't mess with you anymore, but I do not think it's going to be like, I want you dead type thing. You know,
changing our relationship on Facebook to it's complicated.
literally, that is a perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, that's literally it. I think there's a second part to this question here. And Team Sweet and Sour. I mean, yeah, they're going to be pretty devastated because they're all pretty close. They're all pretty tight because Team Sweet and Sour, by all power level standards, is pretty low on the spectrum of power, I would wager, compared to the other squads we know. Yeah. And I think that sometimes somebody told me once, it was like something along, I'm going to butcher this quote here, but it was like, you gain friends off of your similarities or something like that. You gain bonds from your struggles or something along those lines. And I kind of related to that in that because we've seen so much synergy between them, there's not the like, oh, and Dorsey, go smash that thing. Or like, you know, we're going to do all this like, you know, crazy stuff. We have these units on our squad. Like everyone had to really work in tandem and to know each other. Like I remember taking acting classes and like that was a huge thing in college and in acting classes where it was like knowing your castmates, you know what I mean? And like knowing the people and like knowing your class in my scenario and on a deeper level than just like, what are we doing in this play? What are we doing in this scene? Like, no. Like literally getting to know them as people because we had to work as such a like, you know, a cohesive unit. Otherwise this wouldn't work. So we had to genuinely feel for these other people. So I feel like Sweet and Sour, not that the other teams haven't done this, but have really done this and have been forced to do this because I don't think they would have made it this far up the tower if they hadn't. So I think that death definitely hits them really hard. Like it's a literal death in the family. You know what I mean? Like this is their family. 100%. So that, you know, that really sucks. And what are your thoughts on about Arc Raptor's daughter for the future of the story? I said this in the live stream, but I'm really hoping that his daughter plays, maybe doesn't have to be a significant role, but I hope she's alive because that would really just like be a kick in the balls if she was dead or something or gets killed. That would suck. But not only that, I hope, I mean, she has 10 Great Families blood, so she's clearly got to be, you know, something. But I hope that she doesn't get, you know, just kind of whisked aside or like bad things happen. I hope that she's a good person. I'm assuming that she is. If her mother, you know, attached to Arc Raptor, I'm assuming she had to have some character because Arc Raptor is a man of character. I would like to assume. So I'm hoping that got kind of passed down in some way, shape, or form. We know that some of the members of the 10 Great Families, you know, Iwa as one and Dorsey as another, you know, like these people, they don't have to be their parents. They don't have to be evil. So I hope that she's relevant. I hope that she lives and I hope that she gets to, you know, do good works so that Arc Raptor can kind of live vicariously through her in that sense. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. So with the Bam, that whole thing, Bam and Rachel, I kind of agree. It's like with you where it's like, I don't, like I'm done. You know what I mean? There's, like you were saying, bro, even if she was like, the earth is hooked up to a bomb, let it blow, okay? Let it blow. There's not a single thing, not a single excuse or reason that you could give me that would be like, oh, you know what? They had to go. You're right. It's like, no, fuck that. You go then. Like, it's like, so, but I know, like, you know, I'm not thinking the way Bomb is. And yeah, we've got this relationship where it's like she took care of him and stuff, but it's like, dog, when are you going to open your eyes and be like, this isn't about like the relationship you want. Sometimes you have to face the cold hard facts that the people that you like, the version of somebody you want them to be is not always the same exact thing as the person they are. Mm-hmm. The Rachel that raised you, that took care of you, that like, you know, instilled all the ideals that you have in you is not that's not really her, right? It's nothing more than a mask. It's something more than a face that she can put on to get like, you know, to get you to her side, so to speak. She does it with virtually everybody that she's met in a different version, or different form. That, like, that's the way some people are. And, like, I think it's Bomb's failure to understand that. Like, I think in his mind, he's wholeheartedly set that if he can just, like, plug through enough, he can, like, get that Rachel back. And, like, I don't think she was ever there. I really don't. I think the version of Rachel that he knows and the one that he cherishes and treasures was a fake. Yeah. You know what I mean? Was just a mask because, again, she seems to have no problem putting it on with everybody else that she interacts with.
Yeah.
And I think that she just, like, so I don't know. I think, and this is why, like, I really hope, you know, people in Bam's party here, you know, you've got Khun and Dorsey, you know, Yuri, whoever, like, really, like, this kid just needs, like, a hard sit down and, like, look, like, you know, like the Goodwill Hunting, it's not your fault talk, because it's like you need to realize, and I say you need to realize this now and maybe not before, because like now before it was like, okay, what are we giving up by like letting Rachel go here? And it's like a chance to learn more information about Bomb or a chance to learn more information about Fug. Yes, potentially something else, sure, but we didn't know at the time. It like now lives are gone. We've lost people now. Yeah, and that blood is on Rachel's hands. So like, not in any way saying that like that blood is on Bomb's hands by extension, but it's like Rachel is still a problem of yours. You need to, in some version, in some way, shape, or form, need to take responsibility for that and do something about it. whether it's incapacitate her, lock her up so she like whatever, kill her. I don't know what the best option is. I take the bitch's head off personally, but I'm not a good person.
Yeah.
Like so it's I don't know, but I do feel like regardless of what I guess the rational mind would think, I do think Bomb's still kind of going to be like, all right, but like why? So whatever. But I think what worries me about that though is I'm like, okay, then like what is it going to take? Who is it that you have to lose to her before you like end up dropping this whole thing and you're like, all right, she is an enemy
Khun.
through.
No, I think I got a little bit of input on that. But when you're done- when
sure.
you're done with
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So that's that. I just don't fuck with that whole thing in any way, shape, or form. Next part and Sweet and Sour. I feel like they might align with Khun's way of thinking. Like, yeah, she's got to go. We got to kill it. Because the thing is, the only thing that ties Bomb to Rachel as far as like an allegiance is his past relationship with her. Sweet and Sour doesn't have that, bro. They don't even know this bitch. And she killed and was responsible for killing essentially a quarter of their team. I'd be like, oh no, she's got to go. Why? Cool. How many times we got to kill? Like, because they don't, like Arc Wrapped, like there's that panel or the flashback with Team Sweet and Sour, which is between the conversation with Wangnan and Arc Raptor. And like you see it so many times earlier in the stories, like you said, like these guys, this group is a family. They're not like a team. Like they're a literal family, bro. Like that shit's going to hit them way harder than like, and not just again to say this in a way that like Bomb doesn't care, but it's gonna hit. I think it's gonna hit them harder than it hits Bomb. I really do, because again, I think some part of Bomb is gonna try and sympathize with Rachel, but none of them of Sweet and Sour are gonna do that. They're all gonna be like, "Wow, really? You? All right, that's it. Like we're talking,
Yeah.
And so I think they're gonna take it a lot harder, and I think they're gonna be a little less lenient with Rachel and her ideas. And what was the? Damn, I'm forgetting all these questions.
What are your thoughts about Arc Raptor's daughter for the future of the story?
I think so. My only thing with what you were, I remember now what you were saying, is that like I would like to think that like she's gonna be sort of like the extension of Arc Raptor. But if she was taken away, if her and her mom were taken away from Arc Raptor, at X age they were, and have now lived a life away from him, I would be hard pressed to think that she would be in sort of Arc Raptor's line of thinking, because Arc Raptor, I feel like you spend enough time alone and you can sort of introspect yourself into a halfway decent person, which is clearly what Arc Raptor's done, but she doesn't have that benefit. She doesn't have that environment that she's in. I think if she's with some version of some of the 10 grade families or some higher ups, like she's probably been pretty corrupted to a point. Like I think if anything, when we meet her, we're going to see like a Elaine Kaiser situation where she's sort of been coerced into thinking that like Arc Raptor and that whole section of her life was like a mistake and she shouldn't, and so like then it's going to take, Bomb and the squad to shonen protagonist her and be like, look, Arc Raptor was like actually the realest nigga in the whole tower. So like, come correct on Daddy Raptor. 'Cause, like that man was a man. And like, but I do actually think that I do think we're going to meet her, and I do think she'll play some role. I don't know about like super significant, but I do actually think she's going to be somewhat of an antagonistic force, and I think she's going to eventually be like, oh, Arc Raptor, or like, what he was a mistake, and it's like,
Oh man, that would suck.
yeah. But that's my thoughts. Anyway, Gavin, you were
Okay, so with the beginning of it, the deaths, how are they going to affect Khun, especially because of Rachel's involvement? So if I can try to reclaim my train of thought on that, pretty much what I think what is going to happen with Bam is similar to what we have seen before, and he's going to further develop his God complex, but in the way, so when you like introduce Rachel into that equation, what I feel is going to happen is Bam is the type of person who has made excuses for Rachel, from this entire point and has been able to excuse her. Sure. Now, coming with this death, I feel like he isn't going to, like, obviously we know he's not going to just turn and want to kill Rachel. So he's deluded in that fact, or he's delusional in the fact where he still has ties with the older Rachel, has those feelings, thinks that she is that person. So with that delusion, stepping into Bam's shoes, what I think his mindset is going to be coming out of this is he is going to continue with the God complex that he has been kind of going down that path and kind of curate it in a way where he sees Rachel in this person and now who has committed these acts. Instead of putting the blame on her and her actions and holding her responsible for them, I feel like Bam is going to feel like now he needs to also get power to take Rachel out of the situation that she has been put in. Ooh. So with the mindset of, oh, Rachel's being manipulated by Fug. She hasn't always been like this, so something had to have turned that dial and forced that dial to be turned for her to act this way. So Bam is now going to take it upon himself to get Rachel out of the situation that she has been pushed in, which may not necessarily be by herself in his eyes. Although we don't see it that way because she is willingly making these decisions through Bam, he isn't going to look at it through that lens. It's going to be more as she's being manipulated. She's being manipulated to the point where she has lost herself. And she is so tunnel visioned on these dreams that Bam knows what these dreams are. So he's going to come at her with the thought of, hey, you're being manipulated. I have all this power. I can show you your dreams. And that is going to be like that complex that he like manifests in himself to hopefully get Rachel out of this rut. And we all know that can also be some of the reasons why Rachel is in this to begin with, because Bam was the star. So it is going to clash. It's not going to lead to what he wants to, but I feel like that is going to be the result of the deaths that had happened, is just that whole mindset of I need more power. I need to now help Rachel in this situation. And it's just going to derive into this whole mess, which is going to be completely opposite of what Team Sweet and Sour is going to have, because obviously with Arc Raptor and Prince being a staple of their team now being killed by Rachel and not having that past, they're just going to want her dead. They're going to want her to be dead. And Bam is really going to be that token to kill her, or Khun. And Bam isn't going to be about that. So that is going to drive a wedge between Bam and Team Sweet and Sour, thus moving forward to my later prediction where I think Bam is going to be split away from the team. So out of all of this and Bam wanting to help Rachel, now Team Sweet and Sour isn't going to be happy with him. And Bam's going to be like, look, I'm not killing Rachel. You know, I'm going to help her. And they're going to be like, no. There's no helping her. We're going to kill it. And Bam's going to be like, all right, well, and that's going to lead through however many events. And then eventually it's going to lead to their split. And all that stuff's going to go down, which is going to be horrible. But that is what I think is going to come out of these deaths. Very unfortunate, but it is what it is. And until his balls drop, you know, it's what we're going to have to deal with. I'm quite sorry. Until he breaks that delusional bubble, we're dealing with it. So it is what it is. Now, going to Arc Raptor's daughter in the future of the story, eerily, I echo Isaiah with that mindset, where I don't think that she is going to be the greatest person or really emulate Arc Raptor and who he was as a person. And even with that out of the equation, I almost don't want to see his daughter, because I'm not going to be able to handle that, bro. Especially if she has like fond memories of him and is like, oh my God, like my dad's, bro, I'm crying. Like, I don't want to see her because I don't want to go through this. And I kind of in a weird way hope she's an Aspie, so then I can like not feel as much like sentimental value toward it. But no. I have a feeling she's not going to be like the best person in the world. However, if she is just like a mini Arc Raptor, I'm going to be just as upset. So how do we erase this whole problem and equation? Just don't add her in it. Keep her out. SIU. Don't bring her in, please.
Meanwhile, blog posts, you'll see her.
Yeah. I'm just going to cry.
First of all, I am upset that you get the cool theories because you answered that question last. So I'm blaming it on that and not because we didn't think of them. Anyway.
That's actually, after thinking about it, that's very true,
yes.
Correct, and there's no way to argue it.
Yes, absolutely. So Gavin cheated. All right, so anyway. No, that was a good theory, the first one, though. I have to say, I like that a lot. That was good. I could totally see that being a route that they go down, so that was really good. But anyway, question 3, Isaiah,
next
take it away.
question is from Eligas. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Eligas. So, after today, can Rachel be redeemed anymore? Ken White. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? No, and no.
All right, Ian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you mind? I was gonna like give me the honors, and I was gonna go, hell no, no way.
I mean, I sort of said it in the first question. It's like there's not a single thing that could happen in the story. Like, no. Nope,
yeah, I would say so. All right, just to throw a wrench into things here.
Actually,
go ahead.
I will add 1 point in White's corner because for me personally, White is a nigga who came out the gate being like, "No, I'm an ass and I eat niggas." Like, that's what I do. All right, I'm evil. I'm fucked up. Like, I'll kill you and I'll smile about it and I'll laugh at your loved ones' faces and then I might eat them too because my sword is sharp, it's the strongest, and I'm that nigga. Like, that's who I am. But there were no misconceptions that White was anything other than who he is. Rachel is white, but lied about it. So, in conclusion, if White were to have some sort of redemption arc, although I think the veil is thin, I could see him being like,
White killed billions of people, literally billions. You
No, 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 no,
understand
no, no,
how many?
Yeah, but we didn't know these people,
No, no, no,
so
no,
they're
no.
irrelevant. Billions or not, they could just die. We don't need them.
No. We're derailing. I didn't even finish my goddamn sentence. I don't see White getting a redemption arc in terms of like, oh man, I've seen the error of my ways. Let me strap up with the crew. But I see him having a redemption arc in like, oh, I fucked up. Let me give up my life in the scenario now so that Bam or X people or whatever can like get to the next floor or live or like he's gonna have to like would sacrifice himself. Don't fucking attack me like that, you imbecile. Unreal.
That was a fantastic answer. You're crazy, but I mean, you're crazy. All right, bro. All right, so I will. All right, White. Hell no, bro. White is okay. So I guess this is the question, right? I actually think this brings up an interesting question, and I'm curious to know chat. I'm sorry, in the comments. I'm curious to know the viewers' thoughts on this. Do you give someone more of an exemption if they come out the gate swinging? Like being like echoing what Isaiah said, right? Like, do you say, okay, you know, that like, I'm willing to like, I didn't know those people, you know, like you were saying, I know you were joking around, but like, but seriously, right? It's like, I didn't know there's billions of people, you know what I mean? Like he came out the gate, he didn't have any qualms about it. He said he was evil right off the rip, right? Like, do you genuinely kind of be like, okay, you are who you are. I give you, you know, I hate you less. Or no, do you know, are you like, okay, it's really, you killed someone or you didn't, right? Like you committed said evil act or you didn't. Doesn't matter if I knew him or not, or if you came out swinging or you were docile at first, right? Like I am very curious to know that because I would actually wager to say that most people, at least in the confines of the story, probably do give White more slack for that. I would wager to guess, right, over Rachel, which I think is interesting. Because White, I would like to preface this by saying I don't think any of them deserve redemption. So before I get 1,000 comments being like, oh my God, he's part of the RDF. But you know what I mean? Because I can already fucking hear it. But no, I do think that none of them are both of them are bad and they don't deserve redemption at all. But it is interesting to me that I would wager to say that probably more people would be more tough on Rachel as opposed to White, when I do find it interesting that White has literally killed, and that's not even an exaggeration, in billions of people. Like that's like a lot of fucking people. Like we have in history books the most evil mofos of all time. We got like Hitler, we got Stalin, we got Mao Zedong, we got Castro, name off a few. They've killed like combined total a drop of water compared to how many people Hoaqin has killed. So I do find it interesting, and we're ready to, and those are all evil people, obviously, and we're ready to call them evil because that's what they are. And again, this is a fictional story, but I do find it interesting. And I think that's part, and why I find this interesting is because I think this is part of human nature to hate Rachel more than White, which I find interesting because I think it's the fact that there's a saying out there that says no foe is more hated than a former friend. And I think the fact that Rachel has so much of that build up before the betrayal, and I think the fact that Rachel has killed, i.e. Arc Raptor, people that are, and betrayed people that we have developed a strong emotional bond to, even if it is just that 1, 2, or 10 people, I think that invokes a more visceral reaction amongst people that read it because they have more of an emotional tie. And I don't think there's anything wrong per se. I don't want to demonize anyone and say like your opinion, like I'm just bringing up a point here. I think it's very interesting. So I do think, to get to the question, I definitely don't think that, I don't think any of them do, but certainly not White by any stretch of the term. That guy has killed billions of people. That's the argument. Done. Doesn't matter if he came out swinging or not. That's insane. But Rachel, I also don't think deserves it, but I really think this was the real nail in the coffin. I think that they're, up until this point, although I don't agree with this sentiment, but I could see the argument of some people being like, okay, well, she didn't actually kill anyone, right? And if there was like, if we find out that there's some, person at the top that's literally orchestrating everything, he said, push bomb, he's not going to die. Don't worry. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to die. You have to do this part. You got to lead him along. You got to push him again. He's not going to die. We already have all this panned out. You have to go through these motions. You're going to get up, but you didn't actually kill anyone. And I think that she is straight scum throughout all that. But if you wanted to argue the fact that it's like she never spilled blood, whatever. It's a weak argument, but fair enough. But I do think at this point now that she is, I mean, whether she drove the spike or Arc Raptor ran into it, the fact that she was, it's like, you're going to put on the big boy pants now. You know what I mean? Like, you're the villain. You know what I mean? Like, you better own up to that shit. And like, that doesn't mean we're going easy on you now because you killed that man. You know, like, technically you killed that man. You talked the talk, and now you had to walk the walk with it. I don't really think she was worth saving at all because she's just a terrible person in general. But I think this, for me, was the hypothetical nail in the coffin.
It's weird, though, like, when people use the term, and that's why I like that this question is broken up into, do you think any of these characters can be redeemed, and do you think they can be forgiven? Because I think they're two separate things, but people so often confuse them as the same thing. Like, I don't think redemption is the same thing as forgive. I would never forgive either Rachel or White, regardless of, even if the White scenario played out like I just said, exactly how I said, I still wouldn't forgive him. That's not the same thing. Redemption, I think, means that, like, in his last moments of life, this evil man did one noble act or did one good deed. And in that moment was redeemed. He's not redeemed for like the entirety of his life. He will still be remembered as this, you know, crazy evil person who did all these terrible things. He won't be forgiven, but like that doesn't like those things aren't, you know, they're not the same thing. Right? Somebody can, I guess, can perform a redeeming act, but not be forgiven. So in that scenario, again, I think there's, to be honest, just a little bit more of like, there's more courage and more, like, I hesitate to use the word respect, where it's like, again, if White is like, I'm evil, and that's the kind of person I am. And like, granted, like, when we're talking about somebody like White, or really any of the villains that we'll meet from the 10 Grey families, like that shit trickles from the top in my mind. So it's like, how many of them were evil? Like, you know what I mean? Like, out the womb evil, and how many of them, like, were pretty okay, and then their mom or dad or aunt was like, and now they're evil. So, like, you know, it like, so, because I mean, we know that the father, that's a nasty nigga, bro. He doesn't tolerate like emotions, happiness, love, none of that shit. So how do we expect someone like Hoaqin to come out anything less than a psychopath? So it's like, but my point in all this is that I don't think, I think that White being like, yeah, this was what my environment did to me. This is who I am. Like, this is who I am. But somebody like Rachel being like, this is who I am, but I'm going to lie to you and tell you different. I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you that, like, oh, I'm actually, like, super friendly. Tells me that, like, you don't even like yourself enough to, like, be honest with to be honest with other people about who you are, and in turn, not be honest with yourself.
Real quick, though, so I hate to cut you off, but I don't want to lose this thought. Could you argue, though, that the only reason that Hoaqin is able to be like that is because he has the overwhelming power and presence to be actually able to do so? Because I think I would argue that if Rachel had that same ability, there wouldn't be a need to hide it. Because, you know what I mean? Like, Hoaqin is so fucking strong that he's like, why would I hide it? I'm the fucking shit. You know what I mean? Whereas if you had evil intentions, but you're literally useless,
I don't think so.
You kind of have to, right?
Because we have characters like Wangnan. Who doesn't have any powers for shit, but always stays true to how he actually feels, doesn't lie to anybody about like what he's thinking, about what he wants from people. And so again, even if she was like this evil scum and didn't have any powers and constantly got like, you know, had to like get other people's help or was getting like her ass whooped in every fight or whatever, it's like she's being true to herself. Out the gate, she's not fucking with anybody on any unnecessary like psychological or emotional level. Wangnan doesn't do that. Wangnan doesn't have any powers, but he's not like, oh, like, you know, whatever, like, sorry, I'm just, you know, I'm the leader here because like I can't fight. I'm not doing the dirt. You know what I mean? Like Wangnan, that level of like,
well, okay, sorry, but I think it's hard when you throw Wangnan into the mix because he's like almost the antithesis or bomb to Rachel. So it's hard to be like, well, he's true to his morals, but he's a good guy. So like, I think the White Rachel thing, like if White was as weak as Rachel, do you not think that he would also resort to underhanded trickery in order to fulfill said goals? And then if the roles were flipped, Rachel would be like, yeah, fuck off. What are you gonna do? I
don't know, because like to me, I feel like it's a personality thing, like it's a character thing, right? So I do feel like, you know, White may not be able to back up all, or you know, we keep calling him White, like it's Hoaqin, but whatever.
Yeah, White's easier to say.
He may not be able to back up all of those claims he makes or things he wants to do, but like he would still be there. There wouldn't be this like, you know, false or phony facade of like, oh, I'm your best friend, but like the second I get a chance, I'm gonna find some some ridiculous underhanded tactic to betray you. I just think it says more about a character that's like, yeah, this is me 100% through and through, versus like, no, I'm gonna pretend to be everybody's friend until somebody says something I don't like, or I get the slightest chance to betray somebody and get over them, and then I'm gonna do that because like that's better than facing reality.
Gavin, hit us up. I'm sorry, we've been hogging the spotlight here.
No, you're good. I had a question because with the redemption of White, so you think that there would a point where he could be redeemed in a sense?
You're talking, okay.
Yes.
Like
you were going on that point and kind of drifted. So
I don't think he could be redeemed like in the entirety. I don't think the entirety of his life could be redeemed. I think he could perform a redeeming act. Sure. I think there are things he could do that would like redeem his character as a whole, but it doesn't make the whole character redeemable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so with that same thought, would you be able to apply that to Rachel in that philosophy, yes or no?
No, because again, sort of going with the thing I was saying before, I think it's the fact that Hoaqin has been honest with himself. Because like, again, if he were to perform said redeeming act, like there is no, it's not like he's been pretending to be this person and the redeeming act is him coming to term, like he is already his true self, and it's just a matter of that personality changing. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
what's weird, because I want to throw in a little bit, and I can see that with, well, not that I can see that, nor do I believe it's the case, but I feel like it's almost fair where if we're going to put White on that same pedestal where he could be not redeemed, but show an act of redemption that may show something, I feel like that would have to apply to Rachel as well, because say that, although I don't believe it, somewhere down the line, she does change personally, is able to accept people around her, and say she even went against Fug, went back to Bam, helped Bam out, and did all of these things. Those are acts of redemption, and they are within her grasp to attain and follow through if she had that mindset. So with said change of mindset, I do think that there could be a path for partial redemption, like the same kind of redemption that White has, where it doesn't whitewash everything that she's done in the past, but there could be a point where it's like, okay, I tip my hat to you. Like, finally, you're not a fuck up, and you did something somewhat properly. Like, okay, I hate you just. Instead of being a 15 out of 10, you're like maybe a 14.9875, Like, there is an option that could show a little bit of redemption to her character. And I guess that is something I wanted to throw in.
I actually agree, because now that I'm thinking about it, essentially what we're saying is it's like, yes, I would give you this redeeming act because the redeeming act you're doing is dying. Like, that's what you're doing right, and that's what you're doing. Like, yes, Hoaqin, go die properly. Like, be a good guy and die for us. Sure. And I would say the same thing to Rachel. And I guess that is my point. Like, I could give Rachel that if she was giving up her life. If whatever she was doing still worked out to where she got to live, in my book, like, the scale doesn't weigh out.
But does it have to equate to her life? Because what if she has a literal, like, say she has her midlife crisis and literally just does a 180 flip-flop and is just a completely different person? And that didn't bring her death, but she starts making the right decisions. Although it's a hard grab, and I know it's a hard reach, it's more just to play devil's advocate and for shits and wiggles. So I'm going to throw that at you.
I got, like, I can't. To be honest, because I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust her. Something monumental she would have to do. I'm talking like change the tower, alter everybody's perspective of reality, like get rid of Jihad and the 10 great families, make everybody like
really
get everything
all
like
that, bro.
Because I don't
I'm
trust
not cutting
her
her slack, but
I don't trust that if Rachel got in a scenario where she changed but was still alive and kicking, that she wouldn't just go back to her ways given the chance. Because Rachel is a person that, to me, wants what she wants at any cost. So again, if like changing and altering her way gets her close to that, just to switch, like we already know she has no problem lying to people. We know she has no problem using people and playing whatever version of Rachel they need her to be. So like until death, because it's so finite, like, you know what I mean? Because it's so permanent. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, you're willing to X out of this game like entirely? Yeah. Okay, that's something. But in my mind, anything less, it's like, I don't.
No, I could totally see too, because it's like, the fact that Rachel couldn't do the thing, commit the atrocities that White could, doesn't make her necessarily more honorable because she was too weak to do it, right? So it kind of harkens back to my other point where it's like, if the roles were reversed, like, do we think Rachel with that sort of power would have done similar things, you know? And there's really no way to answer that concretely because the roles aren't reversed. So we really don't know. But I think that's what it is. I think I place them... I think that it's like once you get so low, whether it's I killed a billion people or, you know, you have the mindset of Rachel, there's like a level where it's like, why, like, do we even need to do like it's a strict comparison? You know what I mean? Anymore, where it's like when you get so low that it's like both of you, and that's not to say that it's like, all right, once you kill 1,000 people, we'll exempt the rest. You know what I mean? Like, bill's on us. Like, fuck it. You already killed 1,000. Like, what's another?
Put it on the tab.
You know, put it on the tab. Like, that's not to say that either. So, you do get worse. But I think it goes into a really deep, like, moral philosophical thing where it's like, okay, her mindset versus what your actions did, etc. But I actually loved this question. Yeah. It was very short, sweet, and to the point. But like I said, I love the moral dilemma questions, and I think this one really hit the nail on the head with that kind of stuff. But I mean, I don't know. Beautiful. It's some crazy stuff. They would both, you know, I don't know, man. Yeah, let us know what you think. And try. I know it's really difficult. Try and not be incredibly biased. Just it's like we hate Rachel and no matter what. But like really give it some conscious thought. You know what I mean? Compare White. Take the things that we just said, whether you agree or disagree, but take the facts, you know what I mean? And try and deduce your own thing from there. I think that's what makes Tower of God such an interesting story, is the fact that we can have conversations like this over these characters that are really pieces of garbage. But anyway, moving on to the next question. Gavin, I believe it is your turn.
Oh, it is my turn. So what do we got for number 4? We have AK Games 22. What are your thoughts on Jihad locking the upper parts of the tower and the keys to unlock it being the rings and the 13th month series swords? Or weapons, not swords. Also, what does this mean about every ranker that climbed to the tower after Jihad? Thoughts on Jihad and company not reaching the top of the tower. So this one is honestly, this has kind of stumped all of us, I think, when we found that out. And, you know, that like Jihad and gang didn't reach the top of the tower. And I mean, a few thoughts do cross my mind. And I guess it's almost very surface level because we don't have any information on it. And I guess one of them is whatever that next floor holds is a power that even Jihad can't handle. Like, it's just some force or being that, you know, he's not able to overcome or feels like he doesn't need to overcome. So he was just like, screw that. I'm gonna lock the door and nobody's ever going to get up. Like, nobody's going to be able to get past it. However, I can't help but feel that doesn't benefit Jihad in any way. Like, I feel like there either has to be something that opposes Jihad's ideals above that floor, or there needs to be something or a power that could overthrow said Jihad that he isn't able to achieve. And I can't help but feel, so all we know from Jihad is that seemingly he had decent intentions climbing the tower, and then there was a swap. And that swap led to where we are now. So with that, I almost feel like he locked the top of the tower because he reached a point in climbing to where he realized, like, hey, I don't need to do this anymore. I can literally just stop where I'm at and just do whatever the fuck I want because I already have the power. I already got the money. I already got the notoriety for getting this far with people. He's like, well, why do I need to go further? I can have everything I've ever wanted at this point and not have to work for it anymore. Like, I could just sit and just do whatever I want. So I do feel like that could be a pretty valid claim in terms of he just, like, there was no need to go any higher. Like, he already has everything he wanted to attain. What's the point? But then I also do feel like that there might be like an actual paradise that can be achieved if you reach the top of the tower. And that might have been something that, you know, is what originally what Jihad wanted to get, like the actual top of the tower where it is a paradise. However, through wrongdoings that happened to him on his journey, that paradise might not be something that he wants others to be able to attain because he hasn't, or he's had so many law hardships. So he's locking it and preventing anybody else from being able to reach that pinnacle. And those are kind of two things, I guess, that come to my mind. I honestly don't think either of them are true. However, like, I feel like it has cool philosophical notions that can be like dissected from, and like for me, that's what I like. So I don't know. It could be power, it could be a paradise, or it could be just he doesn't need to go up anymore. But I guess those are some of my contentions. What else on this question? I guess, you know, the keys and the 13-month swords, like that's just a safety for him, like splitting up the power, throwing it, and, you know, probably banking on that nobody's ever going to be able to put them all together. Or if they do, then, you know, he's just screwed. But I don't think he really has that mindset that that's ever going to happen. Although the significance of them being exactly 13 weapons and 2 keys, I don't know. They probably do have something. Otherwise, he would have just made X amount of weapons or X amount of rings. Like, I feel like having the distinction is important. And what that plays, I don't know, but it has to be something, you know, whether the ring is meant for, you know, 2 specific people or, you know, 2 people who he expects to meet in the future, along with, you know, however many people holding these swords, or that's what it takes to, you know, culminate a team to go up higher. I don't know. So it's weird speculation on that part for me. What does this mean about every ranker that climbed the tower after Jihad? Well, it's interesting because, again, one of the points where we thought they reached the top of the tower was that they all said, when you reach the top of the tower, you will get whatever you want. Apparently, that's not the case because they don't reach the top of the tower. So I'm guessing they get whatever they want restricted to what Jihad wants to give them in terms of information and, you know, money or anything. So I guess it really, like, obviously it means a lot to get to that point because not a lot of people are able to, but it's not the whole enchilada when it comes to the grand schemes of the entire tower. And was that all of the questions?
I think that was it. You answered the last part in your first.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah,
all right, so then I will pass the torch.
No, good stuff. I mean, I think I would echo a lot of your points in regards to Jihad himself personally. I do feel that it's like, all right, how much farther up do we need to go before this just gets ridiculous? And I think there is a point where it's like, okay, what do you mean when you say you want paradise? What do you mean when you say you want to become a god, right? Because theoretically, 134th floor, Jihad's up there. I mean, by all technical standards, right? Like, you're kind of a god at that point, right? Like, you're not an administrator up like on the higher ones, right? You're not like, you haven't like this transcendental thing that has like surpassed humanity, right? Like, but it's like, you know, you're a king, you know what I mean? And it's like for a human, that might be better in a weird sense, kind of echoing what Gavin was saying, where it's like, long story short, I don't know if there's really a need necessarily, at least for him, or there could be a flip. And again, kind of like what you were saying, that it's like, there is a literal thing. Like, so one thing I'm curious about is, and it's almost impossible to know this, right? Because if no one's been to the 135th floor, how do we know if there's ones after that, right? So I'm curious to know if that's literally the last floor, the 135th, or it's like, no, this shit just goes indefinitely and nobody knows. And he just, you know what I mean? Like, cut it at 134. And he's like, I just don't feel like going because it's like, I think this is a good stopping point. Or it's like, no, 135. I know that's the top. And I'm purposely saying no one could go to that. I don't know. I think it definitely cracks open another whole can of worms here. So I won't go too far into that, but I think that is relevant, you know, whether it's that or not, whether Jihad knows, because I think if he doesn't know that there are more, or if he doesn't know if there are more floors or not, then I would probably opt to think that it's literally something just as like, okay, I just don't think like I need to go higher at this point, and I think I'm just gonna like make the cap here. But I do think if that is the last floor, or there's like Jihad has like a lot of knowledge on it, then I think it's some sort of power that he fears that maybe somebody else can get, maybe something that he tried to get at one point and wasn't worthy of obtaining. We know a lot of the power scaling has to do with the contracts you make with administrators at this point. So it could be something along those lines where it's like, maybe you get to a certain point in power and it's not about how much you could like blow people up and like do all this wild shit. It's about like, do these administrators deem you worthy or not? Like Thor's hammer style.
Well,
thing,
I actually
you know?
wanted to go in on that because that revelation hit my mind like right as I thought it, you said it. And that's what, because obviously we know there are entities.
Don't take this moment from me.
No. But like with the God of Guardians, like we know there's entities who have been there since like before our existence that we know of. So assumingly there's going to be other entities that as you go up to each floor and administrators that you need to have pacts with. Obviously, we've seen it with Bam when he had to make his first contract with the administrator. They asked him, what do you desire, you know? And I wonder if that was the same thing with Jihad, where to climb the tower, you need to have these certain intentions, and more or less ones that Jihad did have and ones that Bam has. And since Jihad had changed so much and when in the opposite direction, that when he reached the 135th floor and talked to said administrator, they were like, what do you desire? He said what he desires at that point, and he's like, nah, like, you're not getting in. Or like, no, we don't want you. Like, you're not welcome up here. And like, just off of that, he's like, all right, out of spite, locks it up, nobody else. Like, we're done.
Rejected.
And he just got rejected. And I feel like that could actually be a very valid point and could also like add a really cool storyline for Bam to kind of swoop in behind.
Interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. There were more parts of the question, but it seemed like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I agree with this thing that we learn does sort of support my theory that Jihad is probably one of the most conceited niggas in the entire tower, because I do think this was a guy who climbed up this tower with either someone or something that he really loved. And at some point, he lost that thing. And in losing that thing, he was like, well, why the fuck am I climbing this tower anymore? But was already at such a power level by the time he got to the top that he was like, well, fuck it. Like, why would I have to go up? I'm literally stronger than anybody in this tower. If I just stop here, as far as anybody else who ever climbs knows, this is the top of the tower. Like, I'm the greatest thing in the tower. And again, like you said, whether there's one final floor past 134 or whether we just got TLC going, you know, until whenever, is sort of irrelevant, right? It's the fact that Jihad has had, for everybody else that is potentially climbing this tower, he has made the cap at where he is, right? He has tried to like set the playing field where he's like, no, I'm the king here. I'm the strongest of the shits. And like, this is, you don't want, there's no 135, like, what, you know? And so, but I think it's interesting because I think, again, this whole system that he's built is basically one big way of like protecting that identity, right? And keeping this thing alive. I think the fact that there's the 13th month weapons, I think in total, unless it's been specified differently, that there might be 13 princesses of Jihad that like he
I believe
originally
so. Yeah,
built the weapons
wield
for.
them. Yeah.
And so like they were saying that the whole running gambit here is that like the princesses are constantly fighting for the weapons.
Oh no, wait, they're 10, right? Because no, I lied. That's the family heads. Continue. I'm sorry.
And I think that it's so. What I think that does is if all the princesses are constantly fighting to have the weapons, like nobody's ever going to get them all. So if you can't get all the weapons, you can't put them together. And then again, even if you put all those weapons together, you still need the 2 rings. The 2 rings, I think, are significant because I think they were originally made for the only 2 people that Jihad deemed worthy of being princes of Jihad. So I think he was like, all right, which I think are supposed to be the only 2 offspring that are males that he's ever had.
Maybe.
Which, you know, Wangnan, Karaka, I don't know. But I think, again, the whole, and maybe that feeds into like the idea of why Karaka and Wangnan got split up. Like, again, the whole system is built to keep all of this away so that this facade of like, I'm the king at the top of the tower stays alive. Because the moment anybody gets that and puts it together, like that's all I mean, like, granted, you still have to beat Jihad, but like that facade is gone. Again, it's kind of the same thing with like the administrator and Enryu. Once you pull the veil back from people and once you tell people that like Jihad is not at the top of this tower, he loses that. And like, while it may at right now, again, seem like not a big deal to lose, like that is something because then he loses all these people. You know, I would wager a guess that are initially like, yeah, I signed up with Jihad because he's the best. It's like, wait a minute, you've been lying to me since day one. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely interesting that this info that we learned. And I think, I want to bring up a couple things because we read the blog post recently, and he was saying when he was referring to the rings, he said, "Oh, Wangnan, Karaka, etc." And we were like, "Etc." Wait a minute, that's weird. So that's a question I have: is like, is it only 2? Because that'll be interesting. Because I don't know what's the rings that form one part of the key, and then the months. So that'll be interesting. But kind of echoing your point, which I found interesting. It's like where you were saying something along the lines of like he lost something and then he flipped. I would say I'm so kind of in a slightly different camp. I think that there's potentially a prediction here that Jihad wanted everyone to be happy, right? That was what he said to calling him Thor, God of Guardians. You know, when he was training under him, he said, "I want everyone to be happy." And kind of the assumption is that he came to some sort of epiphany that, I mean, for better or for worse, he realizes that, okay,
I'm never going to be able to make everyone happy by my standards by letting them just do whatever the hell they want. This can't be some sort of free-for-all, right? My term of happiness has now become inverted, where it's like, yeah, everyone's hunky-dory, but because they're subjugated under me, right? I think that's where the turning point is, where it's like, because there are certain stories and things of that nature where it's like people come to some sort of breaking point where they come to a point where they say, okay, the only way this is going to work is through subjugation and fear and because I told you so, right? And like, you have to listen and you have to be happy, everyone's happy, or you're going to suffer consequences, right? Because it's like, he maybe came to the conclusion that it's like, I can't trust people to be able to do this on their own. I'm just going to put a stop to this. Along with the standard, I'm also getting corrupted, and, you know, happy is kind of like taking a back seat to whatever the hell I want.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing. But again, you know, he gets to the 134th floor. And he says to himself, he's like, okay, I can go up, but I think I've established myself as the strongest here and my squad, right? I have everything going around my finger. Why is it worth not only do I not care about what paradise could be, right? This a concept of a god, because I basically am one, close enough. But also the potential risk that weighs, right, to me in climbing it, right? Because as these floors get higher, we're on the 42nd floor, right, where we just ended off.
Yeah, right.
Like, these floors get exponentially harder as they go, right? So the 45th floor might be like the first 40 floors combined in terms of, like, you know, how hard it is.
Sure.
God knows when you get to that floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're just walking on hell, you know, or whatever the case might be, right? So I think it's like, even for jihad, it might be that it's like, I don't even know if I got what it takes to potentially, like, I may be risking my life at this point to actually complete whatever that next floor is. Definitely. So, like, how worth it is it for me? Like, it's just overkill at that point. I've already established myself. Like, what the fuck is the point? And what is paradise? I've made paradise. I've made my own paradise. So who the fuck cares? You know what I mean?
If
Like,
he's somebody who was robbed of what he, you know, again, going back into my theory of what he wanted, why would he be working that hard if his life is on the line for a paradise that gives everybody else what they want? He doesn't care about that anymore. This jihad, again, I guess that's the distinction, is like when he turns, right? It's like, this jihad doesn't give a fuck about what other people want. He wants what he wants, and that's absolute control and power. And so again, if he stops here, he's the strong, you know what I mean? The second those doors open, jihad is no longer the strongest person in the tower. It's whatever nigga is on the next floor, the next floor, or if there's more floors.
Sure. Anyway, next question. Who's got next one? Me?
Yes.
Okay, where am I on? 5?
Yes.
Okay. Pranav, 24, thank you for the question, says, how much blame can you put on Wangnan's shoulders regarding Arc Raptor and Prince's death? Haoyun warned him that one of his teammates was guaranteed to die, and to be honest, his plan was quite stupid. On top of that, he rejects Bomb's offers to help him earlier. Do you think he overestimated himself? What are your thoughts? I don't think that there's really, no, this might be a hot take, but I don't really think there's any blame to be put on his shoulders, to be honest, because every single person in here was a individual party with their own decisions. Sure, maybe you could, no, not even. I was going to say maybe you could argue Prince, Misang, because they're younger, but no, because then we even get the scene later where Misang is like, I get it. I know I'm risking my life every single day when I come here, and I still consciously made the decision to come with you. Same thing with Arc Raptor, same thing with entirety of Sweet and Sour, anyone who accompanied him on this mission. So I actually don't think there is any blame to be put in terms of their death. If you want to go into, you know, oh, well, he was the leader and his plan failed, so the responsibility rests on him. Sure, but I do think that's a separate thing from saying, like, I think it's separate, right, in that regard, where it's like, okay, maybe there's blame to shoulder on him because he has to take responsibility as a leader, but I don't think the fact that, you know, they, like, their death, like, that by itself, it's like we put all blame on him, because I think, you know, these people, Wangnan is sure the leader and people gravitate towards him, but Wangnan is not ordering anyone to do this, right? He said, here's my plan. Right, Does anyone have a better one? No. Are you guys okay with going with this plan? Yes. Right there, it's like you sign the contract. You know, your signature's on it. You're done. Like, you know what I mean? And that's not to discount their deaths or anything, but I think Wangnan's a little hard on himself, and I think, you know, this introspection he has with Naya being like, oh, it's your fault. These people come around you, and you hide who you are and that kind of stuff, and you get put into these situations. I don't think he's doing any sort of manipulative thing, in this. I think even if there's more to him, I think Arc Raptor sums it up perfectly where he's like, dude, honestly, I don't really give a shit what there's more of. You know what I mean? Like, not in that mean of a way, but he says basically the point is you're good as you are. Yeah. And even that included, I knew you were more than that anyway, but I still chose. You know what I mean? So don't beat yourself up over it. So that's my thing there.
Yeah. I think that's like the key thing here, and the key distinction is that like you could blame let's just take if we just simplify this, like let's say Hoaqin's team, right? Like Hoaqin's telling everybody on his team what to do and where to go and how to do it. If they die, it's like, well, yeah, that's Hoaqin's fault because he made them do that thing, whether they wanted to or not. Their choice was taken out of the equation. I think the main thing is choice. If Wangnan was like, Arc Raptor, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be here. Him being like, no, I know. I'm choosing to be here. I want to be here. And again, like you said, that conversation with Mising, where she affirms the same thing. Wangnan's team does not follow him out of a sense of like fear or duty. They do it because they want to do that, right? And I think that distinction makes it so that, like, yes, as the leader, fault of failure of the mission or the plan rest on his shoulders, but not their life. That's not Wangnan's fault and responsibility. And I do think, unfortunately, with the stuff like he's heard from Hoaqin, like I think Wangnan's head is in a terrible place, and obviously the circumstances working out the way they did aren't going to help him because he's going to put all of that back on himself. But I do think that even talking about, like, the question says, does Wangnan overestimate himself? No, I don't think he overestimates himself. I think that Wangnan is just trying incredibly hard to prove himself worthy. I think he sees that these people, to some degree, are willing to follow him and, like, put their lives on the line when they walk into a battle or a dangerous situation with him. And he wants to prove to them that he's that good of a person. He wants to prove to them that he's the kind of person who can lead a charge, who can start a mission and end it. And I think with that determination and that, like, that desire to want to be the leader that they all see him as is what leads him to make these, like, reckless, whatever. But yeah, I agree. I definitely don't think that, like, this is Wangnan's fault at all. I think, again, for me, the biggest thing is choice.
Yeah. Anything to add, Gavin? Or?
I agree and disagree on some points. Like with the last part, I agree to an extent. I do think it wasn't a good idea because quite literally, like, let's be real. Even overestimating or not, and his intentions on trying to prove himself worthy or not, he knew who he was going against, and that was White and Cassino. We saw that fight with Bam and what it took for him to beat White. I'm going to be honest, there was no chance in fucking hell that and he knew that. There was no way you can pull this off no matter what you're scheming. Like, I'm sorry. It is White and it is Cassino. We know the powerhouses, and not even having Bam, he knew what he was going up against. Whether he felt it needed to be self-redemption or not, I'm sorry, but logistically, it was not a smart move. It was pretty actually fucking stupid. And I wouldn't say then that deserves to be put blame on his shoulders for said acts, because again, they were all independent parties who went along with that plan. They all felt like they needed to prove themselves. That is good, and that is where that blame should not be put on him. However, if we get to the question where it's like, do you think he overestimated himself? Yeah, he might have felt that he needed to prove himself, and this was the only route that he felt he could do so. And, if it worked out, yay, it might have done something for him. However, with the whole they kind of went in with it, not really having a plan, made it on the spot, and it's against people who we know are powerhouses and who he knows who are powerhouses, where literally there was no way that you can swing it to where it would have worked in their favor. And that's just how I felt at the end of it. Like, it's White and it's Cassino. It's Wangnan, it's Arc Raptor, it's Mising, and it's Prince. Like, I am sorry, but there is no way you could win. I don't care how much self-worth you want to prove. I don't care how much confidence you have. There's just no logistical way of winning. And it's like, that for me is just reality. Like, there's a difference between wanting to prove yourself and step out of the bounds and do it than actually objectively facing reality, putting yourself against the opponent, stacking up the pros and cons and what can be actually attainable, and then putting that into perspective and moving forward. I feel like he really did skip a dime on it and try to just move forward without, maybe taking more precautions, whether that involves Bam or not. Obviously, that had other things going down the line, but he did it because he felt his back was against the wall. He wanted to save Hoaqin. He had good intentions. However, I just don't think it was a smart move, and I do think he was a little overconfident in that fact, even if it wasn't confidence per se that he knew he was going to win 100%, but it does take a bit of confidence to be like, yeah, I'm going after White and Hoaqin and Rachel and gang. And I don't think it was a smart move.
If you don't mind, I did want to rebuttal that a little bit. Okay. So, all right, to be fair, White and Devil's Arm, power level wise, like I'll punch you and you explode. Yeah. You're like even Bomb, you know what I mean? Got kind of like Deus Ex Machinas out of there, against White. So totally agree there. But to be fair, Wangnan was not trying to fight them per se in a battle of strength, right? Yeah. Wangnan was trying to use underhanded or, subverting techniques in order to confine them based off the situation that they were in, right? Rachel has this hold over White, using the Pokeball, getting his ass whooped so then they could do the ambush on Cassino because, White really is the powerhouse problem. Like, Cassino's bad, but they could potentially get him, which they did, for a hot minute. They just kind of got outplayed in that. So I think in terms of like raw power level, obviously they're never going to win, but I don't think that they ever intended to make this a thing about power level per se, because White and Cassino aren't, they're White's a prodigy. Like, we get that. But, like, in terms of, like, genius level, like, if he's going up against Khun and then tries that plan, it's like, bro, you didn't even put 5 steps ahead. And to be fair, his plan wasn't 5 steps ahead, right? It wasn't incredibly, but he's not a Khun. You know what I'm saying? Like, Khun and Haryun could basically see the fucking future. So that's that. And like, Khun is Khun, right? Yeah. So it's like, Wangnan is working with like the best that he has with the team that he does have. And yeah, the plan might have not been like the greatest heist ever imaginable, but like, they did what they could. And I think that gets to my point, really my overarching point here is like, I don't think I could fault Wangnan for trying. And I don't think that, I think that all he can do is try, right? Because it's like, we're at a point, like, sure, you can make the argument that it's like, oh, well, why didn't you just wait for Bomb to come back, blah, blah, blah. Bomb and them, as we kind of established when they do make that split, Bomb and them basically tell Wangnan, it's like, that's good. I would love to help you. We kind of have our own shit going on. You know what I mean? And it's like, we understand your plight. And Wangnan's like, no, totally get it. So like, I don't really know if there's a scenario where it's like, Wangnan's like, I'll ride it out. I'll wait. You know what I mean? Because it's like, maybe they'll come back. Bomb will help me out with Cassino. We'll wipe this whole fucking slate clean. And we'll do that because Bomb's only trajectory in that team is up. And it's going to take a fucking long time for them to get up that tower. They're not even a third of the way through. They're about a third of the way through right now, right? So like, I don't know if there ever is another time where Wangnan is even able to have said chance again or to be able to rely on people that are more powerful. And I think that's what makes it, to me, a little more, I don't know if justifiable is the right word, but like I cut a little more slack because I don't think there was another choice. It's either you could say, okay, dude, you're going to get trounced by these guys no matter fucking what, so you might as well not even try it, right? It's like, but how far does that get you, right? Like, better to have tried and lost than have not tried at all. And you know what I mean? I just don't know if there's another scenario with the cards they've been given where it's like they can double back and they get like a 3 times as good plan with key players and the whole 9. Like, I think that time has passed.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm being honest, I think like, oh, he did what he could because that was the card or that's all he had. I feel like that's a pretty, again, it kind of goes to what I was saying. That's a pretty bad excuse because he knows what he has and he knows what he's against. Like, he has his cards. Yes, there may not be another scenario where he's able to do that, but you don't know. That's all theoretical. Yes, they're going up, but that's the thing. You don't know. That's on the whole provocation that there wouldn't be a time where they'd had that scenario. So you're making that in the moment. And that's where I don't agree with, where you're like, yes, you can commend him for doing that with the hands that he's dealt because he felt like he had no other option. And yes, that's the best thing that he could have done, but is that the best choice? And I'm not a big fan of going, just kind of throwing it all at it in the moment and just hoping for the best. That's all you have. Like me, that just isn't always the best option and is always the correct option. And in the scenarios that it planned out, it wasn't the best option, whether, taking apart the whole development of Wangnan and who he could be, and, this being the catalyst for that in the future, I'm taking that out of the equation. It's more just the raw decision or the raw actions that had occurred in going on this pursuit where I don't care how you really break it down or, what cards he had or what, it just wasn't even in my eyes, take White and everybody out, even if it was not even a straw, like just display of power, if it was just doing these underhanded movements, doing anything. I don't think any of it, I don't think poking that bear is a good decision, no matter how you want to do it, no matter how you want to finagle it, even if it's just trying to maybe break him off, catch Cassino and do this thing. In my eyes, even just all of them going against Cassino is a bad option, taking out White and everything, even if you're just trying to capture him. Like, I just don't think it was the best decision moving forward. And they pay the price, and it's that. But, like, I just, I think that given time or really anything, there could have been a better option. I don't think it was the best option. And even going into it, they knew that stuff can go bad. And that's why I don't hold any resentment against them. I just think that things could have been different.
I think that it sucks because, like, in your explanation, then the only other option for them is to just do nothing, right? They either just sit there and they wait for Bomb or whoever else to maybe come back, or they just give up entirely. And they're like, you know what? Sorry, Hoaqin, we're not going to pursue Cassino because we can't beat him. So again, like, the only other option then is give up or give up, right? And they don't they can't do that. They're not going to just give up, right? If we've established the relationship between the team Sweet and Sour, like, they're not going back to Gosang and being like, sorry, we can't get Hoaqin because, like, it's Cassino. Like, he's just too strong. And to be fair, I do think if we're talking about, like, the plan that they come up with, like, again, White coming into the equation complicates things because of his power scaling, but, like, the plan works. They do kidnap Cassino, and it's only until they get double-handed by Rachel and White that Cassino ends up escaping. That, like, the plan it's risky because it involved Wangnan basically taking the beating of his life.
Really, Rachel, sorry to cut you off, but White actually didn't have a way out of that room. They got White.
Yeah,
Really,
right.
You know what I mean?
And, like that's what their whole team working together. But like the original plan of isolating Cassino, because Cassino is a powerhouse, but he is by no means unstoppable, right? And we know that Cassino, even in that, like, he can be beaten, and even with the tools that they were given from Sophia, who, like, gave them that, like, that's what I'm saying, is that, like, there were other options for them. There were ways for them to come up with a plan, whether it's with however many people's help that they need, but, like, just giving up or waiting is, like, that wasn't ever an option.
Yeah, but now,
real quick.
Say,
by the way,
hold on.
then
Now,
we'll move
Ilmar's
on to the
telling.
next one. No, I'm not cutting you off. I'm saying to make it quick. So
No, but now Ilmar has to face, if he does wake up, that Arc Raptor and Prince both died in that event. Like, that's the thing where it's like, yes, they might not have had that option, and they had to go back. What's her name? Glasses. Gosang. Yeah, they might have had to go back to Gosang and be like, yeah, we weren't able to get him now. Maybe in the future. I don't see it as giving up in a sense because they're not. Like, Ilmar is still there. They want to help him. It's more just taking the tactical route in patience and, okay, we're going to wait till we have a better opening. Not like, oh, we're giving up. He's just gone. It's playing the long con in the waiting game. And that might not be the best. Like, that isn't the best option on the table and something that you want to do. But now they go back to Gisang and be like, yeah, well, we didn't do what we intended to, and we lost two people who were, again, Arc Raptor and Prince. And that's what I'm getting at. It's like, apples to oranges here for me. It's just they're not going to connect, and now you have more casualties in a plan that I thought was already fragmented and just leads to further problems, except for the fact that we know Wangnan has latent abilities, and this is going to be a huge catalyst for him. So that is it. We can move on to the next one.
All right, what do we got? Number 6? I think that's you, Izzy.
Yes. Number 6 is by X Guerrera. He says, what do you think of the parallels between Bomb and Wangnan? Both of them want to save their friends, but one has the ultimate power, being the irregular, and the other is almost absolutely powerless, at least for now. What kind of endgame will they have, in your opinion? Friends, enemies, any thoughts on Wangnan gaining friends with his ideals and then being the only one to survive? So I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that Bomb is somebody, because is sort of naturally bestowed with so much more power. Again, this is kind of like the Hoaqin Rachel thing we talked about at the beginning. If he has ideals, he has a better chance of, like, backing up said ideals, because he can be like, oh, well, come to it. I can put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. I think it says more for Wangnan's character, though, that he doesn't have those abilities, but still tries as hard as Bomb. But I do think ultimately it could put them in a position where Bomb actually, it might end up being like a weird turnaround thing, where Bomb, in a sense, becomes like the villain, right? Because it's like he ends up sort of going down the jihad path of like, fuck, I need more power. I need power. I get power, and people just keep dying. Well, then I need more of it. I need more. I need so much power that I never have to worry. But in that pursuit, again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. He ends up turning into the thing that he was trying to fight off, where Wangnan, somebody who had to work work and like struggle for every ounce of power that he gets, like is almost always going to be humbled in a way and always understand that, like, to quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And that, like, yeah, and that you don't fucking around with that kind of stuff, you know, in the guise of like Bam, irregulars, jihad, all that stuff. It is a dangerous game in itself, and it's sort of what makes Bam more susceptible to that kind of stuff, where Wangnan. So I could see like a weird they are friends and they become enemies kind of scenario play out from that. Although I don't know. I think personally Bom's personality is a little bit too, you know, shonen protagonisty, joy, you know, guy to straight fall into the villain role. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it'll be interesting going forward because, again, they both share similar ideologies, but like it's so different in terms of like one, you know, at least the question says, at least for now, one is seemingly going to have to work 3 times as harder just to stay alive every day, as opposed to the other who can get slapped in the face and then, you know, do that slap 3 times harder. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think the biggest contention, you know, like if there is something to happen, it's the fact that for me, I think Bomb has a little bit of a disconnect with like, it's like comparing your celebrities that have been like celebrities since childhood to your average Joes. You know what I mean? That are walking around and doing all this kind of thing, because it's like, you're just, it's going to sound cool. You're just built different. You know what I mean? Bomb is literally built different. And again, I could eat my own words here if Wangnan turns out to be like some
also built different,
ludicrous thing, which is like clearly he's got, I get it. But I'm talking like at this exact moment, right? Like what I know about Wangnan, what I know about Bomb. Yeah, I think that if there is, you know, some sort of conflict to be had, I would put my money on that Wangnan will be if there has to be, the good guy, quote unquote, and Bomb the bad guy. If I had to bet, gun to my head, it says, okay, one of these guys turns bad. Who do you think it is? I guess my money would be that Bomb turns bad, just because, again, I think there's a bit of a disconnect where it's like Bomb, being that he is literally built different, he's an irregular, you could literally slap like this kid with the most with a wormhole technique, and he could just make pocket black holes. You know what I mean? Like, what? Like, do people even fucking fathom how powerful this guy is? It's like insane. Where it's like Wangnan is literally whipping Pokeballs at people, and you know what I mean? Has lost so many people. So I think maybe if there's an argument that it's like Wangnan could get worn down enough where it's like, I'm tired of it. I've seen so many people die, but I don't know. I would like to think that Wangnan, like if there was a point, like he would already hit that point. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Whereas like Bomb, all things considered, has really not actually experienced a whole lot of loss. Yeah. All things considered. He thinks that Rak and Iwa have been, but we've just learned that they're not dead, right? And so it's like Bomb has, right? I don't think Bomb has really lost.
Well, there is.
That's it.
But like,
but that there's no relevancy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, it's a valid one. It's a valid one. But I mean, like, you know, compared to Wangnan, you know what I'm saying? Like, Bomb really,
he's a hoe.
Yeah. Ho's a hoe, and he'd be doing hoe things. But like, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, Wangnan has lost countless people that have been on his team, and not only on his team, people that have been very close to him and that he has built relationships with. Like, I mean, let's think, you know, Prince and Arc Raptor in these, but also Naya, you know what I mean? Beforehand, that's 3 people off the rip that were really close to him and bit it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like Bomb has not experienced that at all. So it's like Bomb thinks he finally experiences that, or at least he thinks he did. Yeah. And he's ready to be like, make me a god. I'm over it. You know what I mean? Like make me those powerful things so I could save everyone. And it's like, whoa, back up. You know, Thor has to be like, pat him on the head and be like, that's cute. But like, you need to back the hell up.
Also, not to mention that in this flashback here, or vision, whatever that Wangnan has, there's like a whole thing of like, if that's supposed to represent all the people that Wangnan has lost, I would argue that like if one of these 2 were to crack first, it's probably gonna be Bomb, because Wangnan, by all intents, should have already cracked. Bro, he's lost so many people, and Wangnan was the light for Bomb, right? When he was Viol and they first met, Viol, you know, he was like, well, fuck life then. I guess I'm just going to live a misery. And Wangnan was like, but like, try, man. You know, like Wangnan was saying that. The dude who lost all those people was like, but you could be better tomorrow. And it's like, yeah.
I think they'll both be good at the end of the day. At least that's my hope, but I don't know, just to throw a wrench into it. All right, last question. Gavin, right? I think this is yours.
Yes. Yeah, because I just did that one.
Take it away, friend.
Okay, so final question. We got number 7 by Cynical Aguero. Ooh. Ooh, I like that name. That's dope.
I see him a lot in Discord.
Yeah, but every time I see it, I'm like, it's a good word. So about Khun talking about finding meaning and sense of purpose, what are your speculations on how far Khun will go to climb with Bam? What limits do you think he'll eventually reach, especially back during early season 2 when his other goal was to become head of the Khun family? Well, I don't want to go too ham on it because we kind of brushed over that in the last the last questions that we answered from the previous week. In that, I think that him and Bam are gonna split up, and that is gonna bring a lot of tensions on Khun as a character and what he is gonna have to really muster up to move forward on his journey. I don't know what that's gonna be, whether it's to help Bam or to figure out some other purpose that he feels or fill another void in his heart. That is left to be determined for me. Limit-wise is interesting because I feel like he would have to. There's 2 limits that you have to reach climbing the tower, and that's either a mental limit or like a physical ability limit. So if he was to cap on any of those, I feel like it would have to be physical before mental, only because we know how steadfast his mental state is, unless somebody throws a wrench in it, which would be Bam, because that is his backbone, as a person. So, barring any mental instability that could come his way, I feel like the only limit that he could physically reach climbing the tower is his abilities. But again, that's something that he's always been able to just back up with his strategy and different plans that he's able to come up with, and really using the people around him, with a good amount of cohesion that can lead to just the winning of, whatever comes in their way in terms of obstacles. So I don't know if the goal of becoming the Khun family, it's just weird because I feel like at this point, a lot of just himself is really riding on Bam. And, he really has all of his eggs in one basket in terms of relying on Bam, where it's like, we haven't seen Bam out of the equation in terms of Khun making his decisions really for almost the entirety of this. Like, even when Bam was to be dead or believed to be dead, and he was helping Rachel still fulfill Bam's desires in terms of getting her up the tower, he was still onto her, he was still doing those things, and we really didn't know his intentions other than, really just kicking back on Rachel then until Bam was introduced again. And, that just kind of relit the light under him, and, that's where all of his energy has been directed towards. So it's I feel like he almost doesn't really have as much as a direct purpose as some other people, other than really just being there for Bam and, helping Bam fulfill his desires. And, take Bam out of the equation, I don't know really what Khun's left with in terms of, if you want to call them selfish desires. What does he want? And I don't know if you guys really have any insight into this other than really helping Bam. He had his family ties, he got Maria to where she wanted in status. He wanted to be head of the Khun family, but it's all of that's taken the back seat since we've had Bam in his journey. And it's other than, that mindset that he's had, I can't really see him with any other desires or goals. And, I don't think that he really even has a plan on it other than just keeping on this journey till its fruition, and then whatever comes of it, comes of it. So I guess I pass that on to you guys on what you think.
No, it's a very interesting question as you answered it, and as I'm rereading this question.
I might not have answered it properly.
No, I mean, I don't know if there is a proper answer, right? And I think that's the fun in it, right? I as you're answering this, I'm thinking more about this character, and I'm thinking more about him in the confines of season 1. Right, when he initially latches on with Bam, and then this conversation he has here, and I'm thinking about Maria. And Khun is a very interesting character, or unique, maybe is a better word. He's kind of an anomaly in terms of storytelling from what I've seen, because generally speaking, a character that makes a speech like this, and say you have no backstory, I would assume that this character had little to no purpose at all before meeting Bam. And Bam is the person who gave him that sole purpose, singular. And that would be the running norm with most people, right? It would totally make sense as to be okay, I'm going to, there was nothing really anyway. I'm going to hop onto this. Bam has given me purpose. I'm going to go. But Khun is interesting because Khun, I would argue, does have purpose, right? In terms of if you want to relate that to meaning, maybe that's a subjective thing. But in that, and it's a very strong purpose. It's, I want to reunite with Maria. I want to become the head of the family. I want to do that. So then it turns into, okay, Khun, I guess, through Bomb has had a changed perspective. But then again, it kind of leads me to what you were saying before, Gavin, where it's like, okay, where do we go with Khun individually though, right? Like if Bomb is taken out of the equation, and I'm thinking back and it's like Khun's like whole life purpose, right, was reuniting with Maria, becoming family head. He flipped on that like pretty fucking easily, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know if he really wanted it that bad.
Maria might be a snake.
Like, I mean,
like with that, like,
sure, but like, yeah, no. But I mean, valid. But like, besides the point, I don't know how strong his convictions were to this initial purpose anyway, because he seemed to kind of flip the switch on a character, a Bomb, who he's just like, well, at first I'm like, I'm going to follow this guy because there has to be something interesting that's going on. He even references it in this monologue that he has as well. And, through that, he then understands that it's like, okay, there's more to this guy. He's able to unite people, etc. But it does seem interesting to me that he just straight up abandons that initial purpose. And I think there's an interesting line in the first season, I'm going to paraphrase it and probably butcher it, but where Bomb is like, I want to be Rachel's legs, right? I want to climb up the tower, when they have that unite moment. And Khun says, wow, if I had only had said that, if only I had done the same thing that Bomb did when it came to Maria. And that's what really motivates him to be like, I'm going to climb up the tower with you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to help you. I'm going to live vicariously through you. Which would make sense if he was going up. But then Khun finds out that Rachel betrays him. Mm-hmm. So then that mind fucks me here, because I'm like, oh, well, you understand now that all that was a farce. So now it's like, and you don't like Rachel, you want her dead. So is your whole life purpose now just protect Bomb? Because that's really all you're doing, right? You're just going up and seeing where he takes you. And that to me is very interesting, because it's like, whether maybe he was lying and like maybe that wasn't the thing, or if he's not lying, it's like, how far can this character really go before he really loses relevancy? You know what I mean? Like, that might be a harsh term, but like, Evan says it, sharks can't swim with minnows forever. If there is a point where he caps, which it seems, again, Bam's making literal pocket black holes. Like he's going to surpass him like exponentially at some point. Physical ability, like he can't make it. And then like, what does he do? He's just like, oh, okay, here's my secondary goal. You know what I mean? But again, like how inclined is he to go back to that again? Because like, did he really give a shit to begin with? Like he kind of flipped. So I don't know. I think it's he's got an interesting thing going on. I'm curious to know Khun without Bomb. I'm curious to see if there's ever a scenario in which Khun is again separated from Bomb, and instead this time it was, I'm going to kill Rachel. That was my purpose, right? Because I wanted this revenge thing. But now like the cards are laid out, like, do we go back to that? Is my whole purpose killing Rachel again? Am I going to ditch that, etc.? Curious to hear your thoughts.
So a lot of the blog posts that we've read SAU talks a lot about Khun's character. One, in the fact that Khun is somebody who had to grow up very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. Being from the Khun family and in the 10 grade families, and that in Khun will always reside this sense of like wanting or yearning to go back to childhood, right? Yearning for that like childlike sense of wonder and excitement and thrill. A lot of the lines he has in this monologue, quite literally, he expresses this feeling of like, does breathing and like your blood pumping, does that mean anything if you're not actually doing anything, if you're not actually living? Which I, in my mind, I connect to like Khun wanting to find this purpose. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to a factor of like Khun having to grow up and find self-worth in himself. Because I do think a lot of this stems from the fact that Khun does not think highly of himself at all. I don't think he thinks nearly as highly of himself as anybody that does think of like good of him thinks of. I definitely don't think he sees himself the way Bomb sees him, but I think he sees a lot of good in Bomb. And I think his initial attachment to Bomb was this idea of like, wow, here's this person who is so much better than me. Like, maybe if I stick around for a while, like, maybe, I don't know, just maybe, like, I could end up being a little bit better of a person. And whether his attachments or his, desires, let's call them, however fleeting, to want to be the head of his, the Khun family, I don't know how deep those go. And I don't think he does either. I mean, like, clearly they're not, cemented or concrete. But I think ultimately he's going to climb up the tower with Bomb for as long as he naturally can, or until something opposes him doing that, right? Let's say in the climbing up the tower, he's presented with a real opportunity to like get back into the family and potentially then become the head of it. Like then, I don't know now, and I don't think he does, but like right now that chance is basically, he's been kicked out of the family as far as he's concerned, right? So that chance in his mind is basically nothing. But again, let's say in climbing the tower, he's presented with that opportunity. Now it becomes a real thing that he could pursue. So I think it's going to take a lot of growing up on Khun's part and gaining some sort of, self-worth and self-confidence and perspective on like which of these things like potentially in his life that he could go towards, like does he really care about and what's worth putting in effort. I think that's another thing too, is that like for all intents and purposes, like it's relatively effort-free, like a lot of the things he's done in the past he's taken, not in the sense that like he's never had to like lift a finger or never been hurt or whatever, but like even with like the Maria thing, he was pretty much willing to just kind of throw away his ties to the family and give up and do whatever sort of dirty, underhanded things he had to do to give her what she wanted, but it didn't matter to him, right? His ties to his family didn't matter to him. His allegiance, none of that mattered to him because he was just kind of having fun. He was doing it for the thrill. But what happens when the thing Khun has to give up does matter to him, i.e. Bomb. Again, I give you the scenario of what if Khun is presented with the opportunity to get back into the family's good graces, but in order to do it, he has to either give up or let's even say, even worse, go against Bomb. Like, so I think a lot of my answer to this question anyway, is like Khun is going to he's going to be climbing up with Bomb for as long as he naturally can. And I would think that like, it's going to take, like I said, it's going to take a lot of growth on Khun's part as a character to like hopefully get to a place where he can identify that. Because I think that's it right now. This monologue tells us that he doesn't really know. He doesn't really know what he wants. He doesn't really know what he's about. And it's going to take a lot
to find himself, I think.
Yeah.
Of thinking it's like there's only so long that you can latch on to Bomb before it's like, well, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like with your thing, like you had a thing, but you realize that thing was fleeting. And now you're latching onto this thing. But it's like, what happens when this thing you're latching onto can't be around you anymore? It's like, I don't really know. I haven't thought it that far, So I don't know. Interesting stuff. But let us know your thoughts on that. I mean, Gavin, did you have anything else to add? Okay. Yeah. Long one. Hope you all enjoyed it. It is currently 11:08 p.m. You're welcome. So
work at 4 in the morning.
If you watch this whole video and have not subscribed to this channel, I will pull a Gavin here and I will spray you with a water hose in your ears a lot.
Yo, what kind of weak shit is that? You got to go for their kneecaps, and then you got to get them when they're weak. You take off their left foot. You do some like saw shit. You chain them down. You give them a saw, and you're like, get out of it. And when they're like, what do you mean? It's like, I didn't do this to you. You have to do it to yourself. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'll eat a cheesecake while I watch you do this. And then there you go. Yeah.
What Gavin said, sure.
We do love everybody that's watched these videos, and we do want to thank you all for the support.
I was going for like the Mr. Beast vibe where he says something like playful, where he's like, "I'll tickle your toes" or something like some crazy shit like that.
Didn't work.
Yeah,
and then he
was the one who fucking did that.
No, that's easy. Come on, it's not bad. You just got to get through it.
Oh my god. Dude, it's way too late. Anyway, seriously, thank you guys for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, sharing with your friends, commenting your thoughts down below. Should be a good amount of comments this episode, at least I hope. We went into some pretty big discussions about a lot of these questions. There were some really great questions posed. So again, thank you to everyone who reached out, voiced your opinion, and had one of your questions on here. Seriously, it goes a long way in what we do. But yeah, let us know all your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there any other thing that we may have missed? Something that you wanted to bring up? A point that maybe, some people might have glossed over, etc. Let us know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blazing the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.